the Storm Cellar. Brad is here. Ray is here. Patty's here as our special guest. Ray, I'm on IR. I think I have an old man injury. I hurt my neck while sleeping. But
Oh
how are you doing
man.
today, sir?
I've got old man injuries virtually every day. I didn't think that being 51 now, and and you thought you were going to skate. I'm not letting it escape. Happy belated birthday to you, young man. You're
Thank you,
still,
Yay!
sir.
yeah, that's right. So happy belated birthday to you. Celebrating yesterday. You celebrated too hard, and now you find yourself on the injured reserve. That
Punished.
happens. That's right. That's right.
It's
But
true.
that sort of thing happens. But you know what? We're always excited to have guests on the program. Who wants to just hear you and I talk hurricanes all the time when we can have great guests like Patty Jasper joining us? Patty, thank you so much for being a part of the
Yeah,
show.
thanks for
Welcome.
inviting me, you guys. I should have said that in the beginning when we were talking. It's really awesome to be on. It's awesome to be on. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Well, and we okay, and you know where we start, and you've heard the show, you know the program. This is how we start. We want to talk and find out from the fan. That's what the Storm Cellar's about. We find out what it's like, how you became a hurricane fan. Give us your story. Where are you at? Where are you from? Tell us who you
Yeah,
love. Give us
yeah.
give us the lowdown. We'd love to hear it.
God, that's a big long story.
We're
Big
ready
beach,
for
long
it.
We
story.
got time.
So I'm here in Apex, North Carolina. So Apex is just outside of Raleigh. It's 20 minutes away from PNC Arena on a good day when there's not a lot of traffic on one getting into Raleigh. I'm originally from San Diego. Was raised in San Diego, grew up in San Diego in Southern California. Went to school. UCLA was my school. Um, Born in the Philippines. My dad was in the service, and I married a man that was in the service and was getting out of the service when we got married. So my husband Todd was in the Navy for 10 years. My dad was in the Navy for 26 years. Um, so that whole military life, but we were grounded in San Diego. After Todd and I got married, we decided Southern California was not going to be an affordable place for us to live and own a home and all those things. So we
Yeah.
started looking around and literally picked from a best places to live list that was a book that was being talked through on Oprah. So Oprah episode comes on and there's where do we want to live in America? And here's the 25 best places to live. Raleigh was on that list. Wilmington
Nice.
was on that list, and Wilmington's not far from here. And we did this whole research thing trying to figure out which place would make the most sense for us. Bunch of different states, and North Carolina was a state. We moved here knowing nobody, not a soul,
Wow.
zero people, nobody, and have lived here now for 20-ish years, 20, almost 25 years. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. So so then you were arriving almost the same time as the
that's
hurricanes
correct.
then.
That's very, very correct. So we got here in 1996, and yeah, it was 96. Um, the announcement about the hurricanes had happened somewhere in that same time frame that the move was going to happen, and then of course they were here, right? So not too long after that, moved here. The whole Greensboro thing. We did not become so. If I back up a little bit, my husband Todd is a huge hockey fan. Like, he grew up in Western Pennsylvania, home of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Was a Penguins fan, Mario
That's a
Lemieux
theme on this
fan.
show.
Seems to
Yeah,
be a
he
theme,
was a
yes.
big time. I mean, that was his life. He was a Penguins fan before the Penguins were anything. Like, they were trash. Nobody talked about them in Pennsylvania. It was the Steelers, the Pirates, Penguins way, way distant third. But
Sure.
him and his best friend, they were Penguins fans forever. So they'd listen on the radio, they'd watch on TV and all that other stuff. So the theme, of course, with almost all Canes fans that are from somewhere else, is that you buy season tickets to become able to see your team every time they come through town. And back then, the Penguins came through. Well, they came through good
Like
enough time.
4 times a year, 6 times a
Yeah,
year. Yeah.
yeah. So that was the reason why we got tickets. And then probably after that 01, 02 run was when he solidified. I mean, we were season ticket holders back in 2000. 2000 season was our time. My husband at the time was working shift work. He worked for the federal government. He worked at a federal prison, and he had to work shifts, so he couldn't commit to the whole "let's go to a game every night" kind of a thing. So we were just kind of coming in, going, sort of, so to speak, and there was no way we could go to Greensboro. So we never became the Greensboro train. Um, so after that, we became season ticket holders in 2000, and that 01 run um, solidified it for him that he couldn't have two teams. He couldn't be like Penguins and he couldn't be Canes. It was one or nothing. And that's when he became fully ingrained because I was already like, this is great. We're going to keep going, blah, blah, blah. And that's how the whole Hurricanes fandom happened. So I would say by 2001, he was completely removing himself from the Penguins thing, and it was all Canes for sure.
Look at that. Another conversion.
Yeah.
I love
yeah.
this. This is
Yeah.
outstanding.
That was his thing. And Ronnie Francis was his favorite Penguin. So it was always the whole Ron Francis, the this, the that, and when he came and all other stuff, it was like, okay, the bulb is starting to, he's sliding this way as opposed to I'm gonna keep, wearing Penguins jerseys when the Penguins come to town and all that stuff. He doesn't have any Penguins jerseys anymore. They're all gone.
Patty, I want to hug your husband. I got to jump in. I want to hug your husband right now. Ronnie
funny.
Franchise. He's my all-time favorite player
Yeah.
ever. And just hearing that brings me
So
great
funny, huh?
joy. Great joy. I absolutely love it. Tell him
It's
he's
so
a
good.
very, very smart man to select
So
someone that
good.
great.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
he is so fond of Ronnie Francis, even to this day. Like, the whole thing that happened when he departed the Canes and everything else is something that's kind of, it's never sat well with them. And
Yeah, it
that's
hurts a
that.
little bit to lose
Yeah.
your hero to the team and have him go somewhere else. But I'll tell you this, and maybe this is not for the way your husband feels, but I like seeing Seattle do well because
Same.
he's kind of driving the ship over there,
Absolutely.
trying to get it going.
Absolutely.
And I want to see them succeed, right?
I do
and
too.
so that's
Same. I think he's going to be fine. It's just not going to be the Vegas story, right? That Vegas story
no
was a one
question.
and done. We're all done with that. It's never going to happen again. Everybody
Yeah.
knows why it's never going to happen again, and they figured it all out. And it's just not going to be, we bring in another team into this league. It's never going to be. Nobody's going to do what Vegas was able to do. I just don't believe that. I don't.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
hard. That
it's
was
way too
that was
hard.
that was lightning in a bottle.
It
Really is
literally
what that
was, in my
was. Yeah,
opinion. In my
no
opinion, that's
question.
exactly what it was. So yeah, that's and we as season ticket holders up until this past year, um always traveled around to different venues, different teams, buildings, and love that whole thing. And now that, things are starting to look a little bit more normal, it would be nice to be able to go out to Seattle. Like that is an idea that I've got, I've got it in my head. I want to go to Seattle. I want to go see the Kraken and the Canes play each other, that whole bit. That's something that I am very, very keen on doing. For
Road
sure.
trip.
And that's
trip.
a great, you kind of touched on it, like with the COVID and everything that's happened. I mean, it's amazing how people have, I think in a lot of fans have grown closer to the team because of that distance has been put between us because of things like COVID.
Yeah.
2 years ago today, is the anniversary of the end of the season, right? They shut everything down early because of COVID. And I look at like the MLB lockout and how that's probably going to drive some fans away, which is a little different than COVID. But with COVID, I feel like people have gotten better at getting online and getting connected, and they feel as close to the team as they ever have.
I agree. I thought with what happened 2 years ago and where we are now, there's definitely a bigger connection from the fan base to the Canes and the team and all the things that they're doing. But that's been like in the running, right? Like all the bunch of Dirks and the Don Cherry and all that stuff that happened before that. I think the lens of what is going on with the Canes now and the experience of what it was when we were burgeoning fan base and the things that happened on a regular basis, and the half empty buildings, the challenges of being relevant. It's like night and day, right? Like in my
So much better.
wildest dreams, I could not imagine that this is like this is happening. Really,
And
like
it's
the
and going back to
conversation.
your point about your husband, like the other
Mhm.
night, the Pens, Hurricanes game in PNC, you still have a couple of games a year where it
Mhm.
feels like you're almost outnumbered by quote
Oh,
unquote the
for
enemy,
sure.
even though
They live
40
in
other
Cary.
nights they're Hurricanes fans. So but
Yeah,
I think the Hurricanes, we've said many times that I think the Hurricanes have done a great job growing the game in a small market.
I
I
agree.
see a lot more people from, like, my parents are north of Charlotte, all the way down.
Mhm.
We see a lot of people on Twitter, especially coming from like Wilmington and New Bern and those places,
Oh, yeah.
Wilson, to come to
Yeah.
games. That's a long drive.
It's a
Um,
huge drive,
so it's a
and there
big
were
commitment.
it's a huge commitment, and it's interesting because I wanna say 5 or 6 years ago, we had seatmates when we sat in section 121. They would drive from past Wilmington to get up here,
Wow.
and they had season tickets, like, they had a half plan, they shared it with another couple and the whole deal, and they were loyal, religiously loyal to the Canes. It was probably more than 5 years ago because we were bad. Like, they would come, and I don't even know, I could maybe count on a hand how many times they actually saw a win when they'd come.
Wow. And
Yeah.
for Ray, that's like 3 hours, man.
Oh, yeah.
If
It's
they're
down at
past
the
Wilmington,
beach.
that's like 3 hours each way.
Yeah, it's down
It's
at the beach.
yeah, that would be like my trips to Edmonton when the Hurricanes are in
Sure. Oh,
Edmonton.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
in
Uh-huh.
Calgary, and
Yeah,
that's the trip right there.
yeah.
That's commitment.
It
Let me
is.
tell you that,
It
and
is.
through some lean years as
Hard
well, like
years.
very, very difficult to watch. And so, I mean, already tons of admiration for you to be able to for all of the fans that committed that season tickets in those very difficult years when some people were saying, look, this is not for me, this is trash what I'm seeing on the
Right,
ice and stuff,
right.
I want to see wins, I want to see excitement and stuff like that. And of course there was the trap, the style of play
Yeah.
wasn't
Oh
even
my god.
necessarily that entertaining, right? Yeah, I
And the
mean it
Mo
was
must go signs.
yeah, you know what? I mean,
I
it
got a few of
was
those.
so that's I mean, that's
Yeah.
amazing but you're getting the rewards now. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like for that
absolutely.
staying
Absolutely.
in there like that. Now, did you have I gotta know favorite players through the lean years? Do you have a favorite player that rises above, and who's your guy on this squad that we see this season?
So I think my favorite all along has been the now head coach. I have a couple of
Oh
That's a
things
good
yeah,
pick.
in my
that's amazing
closet of
pick.
couple jerseys that he signed, and just interactions and experiences with the team back then, and not as much now since we've had this whole situation with COVID. But even though we had some season ticket holder parties where it's just been really really cool to like be in front of them and see those guys. But Rod Brindamore, ultimately my absolute favorite player, and Justin Williams. Justin
Oh
Williams
yeah.
is
Two
my
Canes
guy.
legends, right?
He is literally my guy. I love him so much, and had the opportunity to see him win his second Stanley Cup in LA. My niece was graduating from high school and we timed it. Like it was June, her graduation was going to be like June 18th or something, somewhere in that neighborhood. The Kings were playing, they were in the final, and my husband is like, let's just chance it. If they get a game 5, then we could be there to watch it, see it.
Wow.
And it happened. Like they lost in
That's
New York and they
awesome.
had to come back, and we were there. I've got the confetti. I've got they use silver streamers instead of confetti that came out of the ceiling and the whole bit. So we were there to see and witness that, and it was amazing. Like the
Patty,
best thing.
awesome.
It was the best thing. We paid $100 to park in the parking lot across the street, but hey, we were there. It was fine.
That's
was fun.
awesome.
It was really fun.
Now, Patty, I've got to ask. You've been season ticket holder since how long? Since 2000.
Since 2000. Yep. And
since 2000.
Yep.
So you were in the bar in Game 7 in 2006.
Yes, it was. Yes, I was. Yes, it was the most amazing night.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for doing something that opened the eyes to a lot of Canadians who were watching at home and stuff. And that is standing for the entire game. That is the one
Still the most incredible thing.
Because everyone stood the entire game, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
to show the heart that those fans have. So thank you personally. Like, that was fantastic. I mean,
it was amazing. It was literally the best. It was probably the most magical night, if you can say something magical. It was 90 degrees that day. We were out tailgating with our friends, and it was summertime, literally the dead of summer. 2 days after my own birthday, this was happening. So that was fun. The day of my birthday, they lost in Edmonton, which was a nightmare. It was the worst day ever.
Man.
But that night was something. Everybody that was there can talk about that, but there was something about that whole situation. I think we went to bed at 4:30. I can't remember what time it was, 4:30-ish. We were out in the parking lot. We met people from Edmonton, and we were consoling them, and it was this whole scene, right? It was just the coolest thing to be a part of it that whole day. I remember actually physically being ill. I had planned to work. I was going to go in. I worked at IBM at the time. Going to go in for half a day, then I was going to meet everybody, and we're going to tailgate. And I was physically ill.
Nerves?
3 different times, just nerves, crazy nerves. And the last time I got really sick and just said, okay, I guess I'm just not going to go to work. Just not going to work out. I said, they're going to win tonight. I don't know what's going to happen, what the score is going to be, but they're going to win tonight. And I just kind of shook it off, and off we went, packed up our car, and we headed to the arena and got to our spot where everybody was tailgating, and everything was fine. Like, nothing was bad anymore. Nothing was like nerve-wracking. I was just like, it's all good. Everything's great. It's going to be fine. And it being in the building and the contrast of the hot and the cold, like, they turned that air down to, I don't even know what it was. It might have been 30 degrees inside. People in shorts, the whole scene. It was just amazing. The most amazing thing.
It was so hot out, Ray. So all week, since we had a 3-day gap, I posted a bunch of things on Twitter called Kotkaniemi Memories, just old pictures I found from an old hard drive. I found one of me and Wade Mentor, who's the Canes, in arena announcer, and people could even see then, like, I had already shed my jersey for a red and white shirt because it's like 11 o'clock at night and it's like 80 degrees outside still, and I'm soaked in sweat.
Too hot to be in a jersey.
It was
physically too hot to be in a jersey. It was like alternating. I had my jersey with me, but I kept deciding that I needed to take it off because it was just not.
I want to represent, but I don't want heat stroke at midnight.
Yeah, no, that's not good for anyone. That's not good for anyone, no matter how happy you are that night.
Oh, we want to go into June, and I think, it's so hot in June. You guys just don't even know, but we'll suffer through it if we have to. That's fine.
Right. That's right. Oh man, that is so awesome. Just the energy. Like, and I was in Edmonton and heard this before that, I was working as part of the Edmonton Oilers radio network broadcast, and I took that game off and watched it at home, and you could feel the energy through. I'm sitting surrounded by Oiler fan friends, and I'm the only Canes fan, and I'm in my home.
Boy.
You could feel the energy emanating through the TV. Like, you just feel it, and that excitement, and having you share your experience, how you felt going in like that. I love reliving that. And I mean,
It's
I-
fun. Like that every year. I don't care if it's been 16 years, whatever it's been. I will always mark that day, literally mark that day and say, this happened on this day, June 19, 2006. I will commemorate it some way, somehow, just because it was that special.
Yeah,
I think it was the
I
best
feel
thing.
the same way.
Yeah, yeah,
May 6th, 1997. I mean,
yeah,
there are a couple of days that
yeah.
just stand out,
You
right?
you
yeah,
can't
The
not
history of the
be
game and the team.
you can't not commemorate it or acknowledge that that happened because it was so special. Coming out of a year-long lockout, right? Let's be
yeah,
real. We were locked out for a year, and
yeah,
that was harder than all get out. Like
yeah,
that tested a lot of people. I know folks that never returned, for example. They never came back to hockey. They took a long time in coming. I know a couple of people that came back after the drought was ended. So,
Yeah.
you know, that was a big thing. But there was a lot of reason to believe that we may have a big problem in terms of whether or not people would come back to this game. And they came back, but it took a whole year to get them there. Like that was
sure.
a tough sell, especially at the beginning. And here in North Carolina, especially in this area, a lot of other things distract from this team. Even today, you'll still get
Yeah,
that. Like right now, we're in the middle of the ACC tournament, and that's a big
yeah,
deal, and it's a whole scene. And back then, it was even way more important because back then they were playing the ACC tournament just up the road. Now it's in New York or whatever. So there was a lot of things that were competing against the good that could have happened in 2006, right?
Yep.
It was a lot. It was a
And
ton.
you hit the nail on the head. So now in New England, I've said before, college sports isn't a thing here. So
Mhm,
when you say, well, the ACC tournament's going on,
mhm,
or it's a UNC Duke regular season
mhm.
game, or it's NC State football, and people don't realize that that steps on pro level markets
Oh,
because
for sure.
everybody down there has a college team.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
has, up here
go
that's not,
Heels.
up here in Boston, you might pull for the Bruins and the Sox and the Patriots and the Celtics, and that's kind of it.
Uh-huh.
But those seasons don't, for the most part, overlap other than
Right.
MLB and hockey.
Mhm,
But when you throw college football and hoops in the mix, so now you've got those competing with the professional team, and those college loyalties, run extremely deep. I grew up
oh,
in a
god.
UNC household. My older brother went to UNC. I was expected to go to UNC.
Uh-huh.
I took a different path and went to NC State, and that
Mhm.
like people don't understand like how big it might sound weird to people from not in the area, but it's like and it's like no, I don't think you understand like how upset my family was that I didn't go to
Clueless.
UNC. Like it
Yeah,
was it was it,
Folks don't
it was
know.
problematic on one level. Like I knew deep down it wasn't, but
Mhm.
I mean,
It's a
there's a
thing
rivalry
here.
there. Like
Yeah.
it would be like turning your back on your family, in the Middle Ages and be like, nope, I'm going to join this other family. It's like can't do that. But that's what I'm doing.
And people don't get it until you actually physically explain that to them,
Yeah,
or they come down here and they
and
actually
experience it.
experience what that even means. Like when I moved here, I was like, okay, they're really wheeling in TVs to watch the ACC tournament at work. Like
all
that
through
tradition
elementary school,
was
high
for year
school.
exactly. It's
You
like
Oh,
didn't do
everywhere.
work
You're
on
like
ACC Friday. Everybody knows
you
that.
walk into a store and there's somebody's got a little TV or a radio and it's the tournament on and you're like, what's going on here? I have
you
no
know,
idea what this even means. And I had to understand it and live here a little bit to experience it. And then I have friends, some are NC alums, many are NC State alums, I've got Duke alums. Those saying those things out loud mean something and they could be fighting words depending on what day it is, right? So it's a big deal. It's a big
don't
deal and it's the thing that the Canes have had to combat for years. And they now exist with each other. It used to be like, oh my god, we have a Wednesday night game and it's the UNC Duke game, and you would walk into the arena and I'd look into the suites that were above us and you'd see all the TVs on to that game. literally to
And
that
only
game.
like 10,000 people there
And
because
maybe
everybody else is watching.
10,000.
Yeah, everybody else is watching the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only one thing that really rivals, in my mind, the NHL playoffs, and that is March Madness and
Sure.
the basketball, and because that, I mean, State, the Heels, and of course Duke, you drop hockey right in the middle of that.
hmm
That is a tall
It
order.
is.
Like to be able to build a franchise, build a fandom where and here, think about this. You would never, ever, ever be able to get, in most cases, a Heels fan and a Duke fan to agree on anything. What the
No.
Hurricanes have been able to do is give them all one unified thing that they can all
hmm
support. There are
And that's
Duke
true.
fans that love the Canes. There are NC State fans. Of course, it's right there. There you go. That's right. And then, of course, the Heels, they're all there. They're all supporting. For that short period of time in that rink, we're all on the same side.
Yeah.
But the
And
second
that's
that
true.
game is over, it's forget about it.
hmm
I mean, they'd be chucking knuckles outside if they, said something
And
wrong.
that's
You
the
know what I mean?
truth. That's the
It's
truth. And
it's
players
but
notice that too. Like they would comment on those things. Like the first big run, the 0-2 run versus Detroit. That was a theme. Ronnie would say it often, and all the other players would say similar things like you can get everybody together in a room in a building and cheering for us because of the Canes, just the Canes. We're not talking about the other
yeah,
schools and all that stuff. And that's been a thing I've heard Justin Williams refer to it. It's like they've become ingrained in the community, so they know all about these things. They're athletes, so they know the competition part of it. But they understand that, and that's kind of cool too.
I like seeing our foreign players when they, especially when they first come in, because at first you could tell that they're all like,
What?
this is the thing, and I really don't know what's going on here because
What does this
collegiate sports
mean?
like this in Europe isn't really a thing. But then after a couple of years, then they're like, oh yeah, I'm
This
pulling
is
for
fun.
I'm gonna I'm gonna put down my foot and put a stake in this race, and
Yeah,
it's a lot
yeah.
of fun to see that transition though because
And it's
it's
very
so different.
cool. It's very cool. I think it was a couple years ago, maybe I think the year we drafted Andre Svechnikov. They took him to NC State game that they walked across the parking lot. It was no big deal. But you could see that he wasn't like he didn't know what it was. Same with Nate, just they did it with him. And then the next year they did it again, and like you could tell he had like oh, this is cool. And out there on the field, I think they were just kind of hanging out, and you could see that they were actually enjoying themselves. Like, this is really neat. I mean, if he were just a regular person, he would probably be attending college, right? So it kind of went with the whole theme of it, and it was really neat to see that, especially between those two players. So yeah, it's really cool when you see that they're embracing the culture of the area and things like that, especially our foreign-born players. Yeah.
So thinking about foreign-born players, KK
Yeah.
in from Montreal, new to the Canes. I'm sure this is probably very much unlike anything he's seen. This is his first ACC tourney. We haven't even gotten to March Madness. Speculation, and it's only speculation at this point, is that the Hurricanes and KK's camp are close to maybe an 8-year deal. I think the numbers that I've seen between $2.5 and $3.5 million to keep him in
Mhm.
Carolina. If it is 8 years, it can't be announced until after the 21st trade deadline. Uh, Thoughts? Good thing, bad thing for that kind of money? I mean, can he move up? Does he stay on the fourth line? If this happens, just because it's speculation, let's speculate.
I think it's a good thing. I'm a little concerned about that term, but not like, "Oh my god, this is freaking me out" concerned. It's just like, "Okay, they really wanna go there." If this is true and they wanna do 8 years, that's quite a commitment. Like,
Really is.
okay,
That's put a lot of trust in the kid for
yeah, that's putting a lot of trust in the kid. And I personally am a fan. Like, everything that I've seen, the eye test with him, I see where his growth needs to happen. He still has room to grow. I don't know that he was ever in a good position when he was drafted. Like, they picked him where they picked him, and that's on a whole other person and team, all that stuff. But what he's brought to this team, I am impressed. I'm really impressed that he's kind of shaken this whole the Habs, and all the expectations, and he's really trying to go to work. He's trying to do his thing and show that he can be trusted, number one, that he's got capabilities, number two. And I think if he's able to move up in the pecking order, and we don't know what's going to happen with Prochak. Like, are we going to resign Vinny Prochak? What is that going to cost? Do we have the money or cap room? We have the money.
That's
a lot of questions there.
That's
if he
exactly.
Leaves, can KK be that second line center?
Yes.
I mean, he's
That's
got
exactly
23
where I
points
was
in 12
going.
minutes a night. And when he's been moved, and he's got 3 game-winning goals. Like, let's not forget it. He's got 3 game winners.
Right.
And that's fourth line grinding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not in a skill position. He's clearly a lot more skilled than
he's
what he's being asked to do now.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
I'm with you. I worry about term, and then I'll turn it over to Ray. But he was picked behind one Mr. Andrei Svechnikov, right? Picked third behind number 2,
right?
And I'm with you. I don't put them together so much as 2-3 because they were the same draft class. Because I feel like with KK, we're having to rebuild. Like I'm not counting a couple of those seasons time that he's developed. I'm saying no.
I agree.
I don't think he was given the right coaching and opportunities. So he's starting back at square one. So the question just is, can he just improve, quickly the way that Andre did under Rod's system? And if he can, that's a steal.
Absolutely. Absolutely a steal. I fully agree with that. And I do think Rod Brind'Amour could do this. I think he's done it already. I think he's done it to a point. Like, there's a lot of things that you have to undo when somebody has been head gamed. Like, I don't know what was going on up there. I can't even.
No one does. No one does.
I mean,
really.
I don't even know. Yeah. You're scratched in the Stanley Cup Finals. I can't even. So I'm just going to say I can't even with that. But he had to undo all that. Coach. He had to rebuild him literally from the ground up. Okay, he's a fourth line player. He's not really a fourth line player. He's too skilled for that. However, he has other things that he can work on and get better at, and I think he will. But I think he feels a complete trust from the coach that I'm putting you out there. I'm doing these things. I'm going to continue to do these things until you show me that you're not going to be able to do them. That's how I've looked at this, and it's gone steady. Like, he was 8-10 minutes. He's gotten a couple more minutes here. Now we're getting closer to the middle of March. That whole thing. Let's see what he does. So, if we can do this deal, I'm okay with it. I am.
In the very first few, we don't talk much before the show begins recording, and you guys kind of sprung this on me. So it was the first that I heard of it. But I'll tell you, the very second that I heard it, I immediately thought this was more of a harbinger of things to come as far as it concerned Trocheck. I think if they do sign him to an 8-year deal, I really think that they will let Trocheck go.
Yeah.
They'll let him. They'll thank him for his time and let him be on his way. Would I like them to re-sign him? Trocheck is so good in the face-off circle. So helpful. It's that extra backup, and you get that full depth at center. Like, I mean, you get that the depth that we have right now is, we have so that just a wealth of talent in center, and having KK kind of shift to the wing and stuff like that. You see the games where he's played really well is when he's had some time at center. Those are the games where he really shines.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the reason why, if they go ahead and sign him to 8 years, that they'll be able to say, okay, we've got someone locked in for a long time, full of talent, young, able to
Mhm.
grow and
Yeah.
blossom further, and we can let Trocheck get our way and maybe build elsewhere.
I just think
Um,
we won't be able to afford him. I mean,
no,
Yeah.
what will
no,
he be asking for? And surely they're already
exactly.
talking to his agent, and his agent is saying, what are they saying? Right?
Yeah.
So that's the other piece where you're like, I like him too. He came right in time, in my
Hmm.
opinion. The trade for Trocheck. First, I was like, what are we doing? But then, okay, he was coming off that terrible injury and everything else, but he's fit right in, and
Yeah.
he came right on time. That's how I see it, and I think he would be a great long-term Hurricane. I just don't know where the dollars, how we can make that work.
Can I throw out something that is potentially ridiculous, but I don't know that it's really that ridiculous?
Fire away.
Sure.
You have me as
The-
part
the-
of the show. There's nothing more ridiculous than that. Fire away.
The Hurricanes have an abundance of talent at center, which is why KK's playing fourth line.
Hmm.
Vincent Trocheck is 28. Vincent Trocheck is everything that the Canes could ask him to be and more.
Hmm.
The captain, Jordan Stahl, is 33, I think.
That's
He
about
has
right.
one more year, and then he's a UFA at $6 million already. To let a captain walk is kind of a taboo thing in the NHL, but we also know that, Tom thinks with his wallet, right? He
Yeah.
wants to field the best team. Could the Hurricanes bring back Trocheck knowing that they may or may not bring back Stahl, or will only bring back Stahl at a reduced capacity? So maybe KK becomes your second line center and Trocheck moves down to third, and you either bring somebody up or you trade out Stahl. Is that, I mean, like I said, this is kind of ridiculous. It just kind of hit me. I'm like, I just wonder when Stahl's contract is up, and it's up next year.
Yeah,
So do you
God,
maybe
that
pay to keep
10-year
the guy who's
contract is
5 years
already.
younger?
Yeah, oh my God.
Yep. So do you maybe pay
Time.
the guy who's 5 years younger, a better goal scorer, who I don't think he's as good as Jordan defensively, but
No. Not.
if I tell you have to build a new team around Trocheck or Stahl, I'm picking Trocheck.
Yeah, well,
Just
clearly
food
for
for thought. I don't
the
know. Maybe
yeah.
this is completely off the rails.
Well, it's something to think about for sure. And if you think about the age difference and the gap, and Vinny being younger than him, it can make sense, but it's always so. I mean, you bring up those types of things, and it gives me the flashback to when we traded away Eric Stahl, right? So it's not the same
Mhm.
thing, but you lose your captain and send him off, and off he goes, that whole deal. So, yeah, okay, what do we do here? It's definitely something to think
And we
about.
do have leaders. Trocheck,
Yes,
I think Slavin is the next guy to wear the
I would
C.
agree.
I don't know.
I agree.
I think I broke Ray's brain because I'm looking at Ray,
I know he's
and I don't
really
think he's
thinking,
blinked in
isn't
a
he?
couple minutes.
He's
So I
really
think Ray's.
thinking.
I
What what's going on in your head, man?
He's
Well, for
thinking.
you made me speechless, which is something that my wife wishes you would have done a long ass time ago. Pardon my language. Good Lord, I can't. Okay, so here's the thing. Seeing Stahl go, I mean, he's on the downside of his career. Age
Mhm,
just you can't
mhm.
you can't outrun age, right? Like there's just no ways around it. And at
Especially
some
the game
point,
he plays.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Physical, back checking.
Mhm.
The
Hard.
problem, the problem I would say about letting him go kind of ties into the game that we were going to talk about this week was Kane's Avs.
Mhm,
Jordan Stahl plays such a strong, he is so strong in the face-off circle defensively. He's like a shutdown forward that can forecheck, but is responsible
mhm,
defensively. And you combine that with a guy like Slavin in the back end and stuff like that. You put them both on the ice, and you could see the results of what could happen where you can make high-powered offenses, you can nullify it. You can absolutely nullify it. Trocheck does not have that ability in him. Yes, he scores more. He is, I would say, on par with Stahl in the faceoff circle. That is great. And this sounds like I'm smirching him, but a Trocheck is
Every
great,
time we
and I
research
dig
him, he has a great game. So
he does.
there you
So I
go.
guess
Smirch all you want.
besmirch or besmirch all the way. I having Stahl go, I know that time is coming, but is that time coming tied into the KK contract and whether or not we're able to re-sign Trocheck? I mean, you always look ahead to the future. So, Brad, I think you're probably.
We've let two Stahl goes out. 2 of the 4 we've already let go.
I mean, I guess, we've got a theme going, so it only stands to reason that we would do this. My gosh, Brad, geez, brain cramp.
Or maybe he stays on, but he doesn't make $6 million, right? Maybe Trocheck, maybe he and Trocheck flip flop salaries or something. $6 million for 4.5. I'm just saying, if Trocheck, I've said before, I'm like, Trocheck is like the blood of this team. I mean, he may not be the heart, but the guy is a core. He is.
He's got that something about him.
Yeah, I mean, in the Penguins game, right, with Letang, I mean, he's got that.
I always wonder what he's saying to these guys because they get so pissed.
The chirping is
always got to be great.
Chirping.
And he'll just skate away, and you see them like the steam could come out of their head. It would be coming out of their head. So what did he just say? Right? That's what I'm always saying. What did
I would love to see him mic'd up.
I want to know,
you, Patty. I'd love to have him mic'd up for a whole game, uncensored. Like, just give me the footage of him mic'd up.
Uncensored. Yeah, you might have to put that on a special channel for that.
Yeah, beep beep beep.
Yeah, exactly. Man, guys, wow, that was tough.
It's food for thought. That, I mean, if nothing else, this conversation is going to have. I mean, it's probably happening right now. We're, that's above our pay grade. It's going to have to be addressed and discussed. And are they, number one, discussing and addressing now, or are they going to wait until the summer comes?
Right.
I have a question for you guys, just to jump in. Sorry, Brad. Do you believe, because Brad, you brought up perhaps Stahl taking a lesser contract. Do you think that hockey players, our Hurricanes specifically, have the wherewithal to take team franchise-friendly contracts to assist help elsewhere? You hear about it happening in the NFL, where certain players say, yeah, you know what, I'll take a little bit less money if you can go out and get this guy to help make the team better, stronger, protect me. I mean, you hear about that happening with quarterbacks, right? Is that something that you think we have in the NHL? I've never heard of a player actually taking less money in support of the team that he's playing for. I've never heard of it happen before, not even rumored. Do we have that here? Is Stahl that guy who could do it? You want to talk about speculation and going off the rails, Brad? There's something for you, philosophically speaking.
I don't know we've heard about it, but I think part of that is the position of the NHL, right? It's, fourth among the big four. And by fourth, I mean there's 3 and then there's a big gap and then there's 4. So when Tom Brady takes a cut to get more wide receivers and all, his cut is, worth 3 or 4 NHL players, right? It's right. So in the NHL, $1 million here and there adds up. So I think maybe we haven't heard of it or think about it only because we're talking $1 million or 2 and not 10 million.
10 million,
right?
Yeah, I would agree.
And I would just add that you have Ryan Suzuki and Jack Drury in Chicago, both play center. Somebody's got to go. If Aho's not going anywhere, KK, if he gets locked up, and then you need to either find or trade Suzuki and Jack Drury's ready for the NHL, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he is.
Then you have Trocheck and Stahl. Somebody has to be the odd man out.
Embarrassment of riches.
And
It's
that's
nice to
probably
have.
that's probably their mindset too. Is like, okay, do we really need to sign Vinny? Can we bring one of these guys up? Are they ready? Right? Like, are they constant? I'm sure they're in constant contact. They're in constant contact with Chicago, and the word is that he's ready. And they probably feel like, then maybe we let somebody walk, and it would be Trocheck, obviously, because his contract's up. And again, the whole negotiation on the money. How, what are they looking for? What is his camp looking for? And I don't know that, and to your point, Brad, I don't know that it's ever talked about, but if we look at Sidney Crosby, for example, his 87, 8,700,000 based on his number. I mean, he could obviously get more than that, but that was his contract,
Yeah.
right? So he took a little less to be able to help the team. I think there's other things that you've seen in the league that were more undercover, as opposed to, okay, we just gave a hometown discount, that kind of thing. So yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and I think it's just a numbers game, right? I think the numbers in the NHL just aren't big enough for it to be a thing. So, since we're talking embarrassment of riches, our opponent from Thursday night also has an embarrassment of riches. And we beat their pants off. I know it was close, but I'm going to say beat their pants off anyway, because there's a subset of Colorado fans that I just don't like. I get a lot of people like, oh, I can't hear with my 2 rings and
oh God.
I'm like, you act like your 2 cups
Patrick.
is so much bigger and loftier than our 1 cup. Like if you're the Habs, you could make that joke. Oh
yeah,
don't talk till you have 24 cups. Okay, I'll kind of buy that. Like, you got 2, got 1. They were both relocated franchises who went through some terrible seasons and have had sporadic success. Like, if anything, be happy. Be like, hey, you know what? We lost. Good job.
Agree.
That Avs game, in my mind, cements, I think we need to upgrade, because in part I think Colorado is going to upgrade. But what a game.
Yeah,
like,
that was
people say I want 7 games. That I don't, because I don't think my heart can take it. I'm not on heart meds or blood pressure meds, and I also don't want to be. So I'll take 4 games like that. If the Hurricanes can just win 4.
I am on meds, and that game was unbelievable.
It was great.
They're trying to kill me off watching that. That was outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding. If you wanted to sell someone who had never watched an NHL game,
that part. Yeah.
That is the game that you show them from start to finish. Yeah. And, you looked at the first period in that first 10 minutes, and the Canes were just all over
crazy.
It was so impressive. And just like that, Colorado was all over the Hurricane. I mean, it was back and forth.
Yep.
It was crazy to watch. It was so much fun.
It was good.
It's the absolute example of the perfect resume of, hey, you want to be a hockey fan? What? You've never watched? Check this game out. Yes. Check this game out.
Agree.
For anybody still doubting Antti Ranta, get it. If you aren't sold on this guy by now, I don't know what more proof you need. The Avalanche went 0 for 3 on the power play. They had a 55% face-off percentage. They actually beat us quite
handily.
27 hits and only 11 blocks. So, and they were all over. Ranta made some amazing saves. I mean,
he did. And I guess the whole sideways story on Ranta, I mean, I would say it's probably because he's had this injury history, but he appears to be very removed from that whole history, because he's really playing like an elite level goaltender, right? He looks like he's super confident. He's extremely happy with where he's at, and it's shown in the multiple games that he has played.
He's the number 1 goalie on a lot of other teams.
Oh yeah,
that was one of the points that I was going to bring up. I don't think, even though Freddie is the number 1, I don't think you can label Ranta a backup goaltender. You
I agree.
always hear that backup. He is not. He is
Yeah.
absolutely not. And if you just think about the confidence that the players and staff
Mhm.
on that team have after he puts up a shutout against the best team in the league, arguably the deepest, most talented team in the league. He put up a shutout, some
Mhm.
unbelievable saves. You think about that now as
Yeah.
they move forward. As they move
It's
forward,
incredible. It's incredible.
the
And
confidence will just be contagious.
through the roof, through the roof.
Yeah,
And when you have a head coach who I don't know what it is about Rodney. Just try to read his body language. He's so hesitant around talking about his goalies. You see him and I just leave him alone and this and that. But the praise that he's given and said things about Ronta, you can tell like he feels like we're in this good. And that may go back to Brad's point about or no, Ray, I think you said it. You saw on NHL Network where Mike Maniscalco had mentioned um, them staying pat, like not
yeah.
doing anything. Well, if the coach is believing that he's got the two guys and that if something were to happen in the playoffs, could we put in Ronta? Of course we could. And I think that's showing him making comments around we have a lot of confidence in our goalies and those types of things. It only bodes well for April, May, June.
Yep.
Think about 2006, where we were rolling with Martin Gerber
Hmm.
as the start, and the backup at the time, one very young rookie,
Hmm.
Cam Ward.
Hmm.
And who was the savior in 2006,
Yeah,
right? I
absolutely.
keep
Ron
thinking
Smyler.
about that one, yeah, that one toe save against Edmonton
Yeah.
in Game
Oh God,
7.
yeah.
Holy crap! I mean, again, we're at another great spot with this squad, and the goaltending is so important. You look around the league, teams that oddly enough are looking for a little bit of stability and extra insurance in net.
It's scary.
Namely the Avs.
Yeah.
The Avs have been talking about a little like and Kemper,
Mhm.
saying his name properly. I always struggle with it. He's great, but is he the guy you want to roll into the playoffs with when you've got an opportunity to maybe scoop up someone like Fleury? I mean, those rumors are out there.
Yeah.
Will they happen? I don't know. But I mean, I just see the confidence that we can have. And Ronta's not a sexy name,
Mhm.
right? He's not,
Mhm.
he doesn't have the
Another Finnish
cachet.
goalie.
Yeah, there you go. He doesn't have the cachet that some of the other great goaltenders have, but
Yeah.
solid
Yeah.
performance
Yep.
through and through. I mean, not just there's a calming aspect that the team can have
Yeah.
going in.
And you can
And
tell that they root for him. Like he's got that
yeah,
little underdogish kind of thing and oh, this is the guy that's been hurt these last couple years and here he comes in and look at him. He's doing great things. So I think there's a confidence level from his teammates and that he's well liked. Like you can really tell like at the end when they, all stick tap him and that whole deal, you can
yeah,
really see that they care about him and they want him to be successful because Freddie's
Mhm.
got the success. Let's give this guy the same success when he's in. And it's working out. It's totally working out.
And
and isn't it great that we can now know without fear of slipping at all that Freddie can take as much time as he needs to get
Yeah.
healthy and ready to
Yeah.
go, knowing that there's nothing to fear,
Yeah.
in net, right?
Agree. Yeah.
And we've got an embarrassment of riches there too. If you look throughout, the franchise
Mhm.
and farm team as well, a lot of talented goaltenders that have played well and have actually won games,
Mhm.
with the Hurricanes this year. But there's no pressure. Now you don't have to rush anyone back and ask for more of them than their bodies can give. And you see in Toronto, Jack Campbell has had a terrible, terrible go. That whole situation, and he actually had to he essentially pulled himself injury-wise. He needed to get himself out to get the rest he needs. And now in TO, much as we loved Mrazek while he was a Hurricane and stuff like that, he's not the answer.
No.
He's not the answer.
Well, and he doesn't have Jacob Slavin in his decor.
No, that's the other thing.
That can hide all kinds of problems.
Oh, correct? No question. Yeah, and that which Patty, and I'm sure you've heard us say this here before. The people who were chirping Freddie Anderson were all Leafs fans, and the Leafs fans saying, "Oh, see, there you go. He's going to give up those bad goals. How you like him now?" And I'm like, you know what, guys? He has a D now that is leaps and bounds better than the D that you had in Toronto. Yeah. So you know what? Enough.
I don't like him. I love him.
Yeah, exactly. We're very, very delighted to have him aboard. So yeah.
In the same vein, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the game-winning goal. Ethan Bearsy go rar.
Yeah.
Just throws it at the net. And Kemper's, I mean, he's not among the league leaders in anything, really. He's a step below the top shelf goalies.
Agree.
And, Ethan Bear, that's his third of the year.
It was so funny. Ahead. That was so funny because my husband was like, on that last power play before he scored the goal, he came in on that second unit, and my husband said, Bear's going to score. He's going to score a goal on this power play. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then, of course, it just went away.
Premonition.
And when he scored, he's like, oh, my God, there it is. And it was that wild, weird, crazy goal. It wasn't, he just let it rip. Shoot the thing.
And
officially
never
throw
know.
It to the net.
Officially, Aho's goal was unassisted, but I'm pretty sure that pass from, I think it was Landeskog, was a beauty of a pass.
It was right on the money.
I would also be remiss from not bringing up, that was a money pass. That you can't pass a hockey puck better than that. Thank you.
Poor guy. Poor captain. He was so mad.
I thought it was funny. I say we're getting late in the program, but real quick, he gets a 10-minute misconduct for chirping the ref. And people say, oh, he says, oh, I told him we didn't have a good night. You said more than that. You don't get tossed for that.
No, you don't.
The Colorado Avalanche draw more penalties consistently for the last couple of seasons than any team in the league. If there's one team in the league that cannot complain about the officiating, it's the Avs.
It's not for sure them. For sure them.
Combined, the teams were 0 for 7 on the power play. That wasn't a power play issue. Kemper let in a soft goal. If you don't like the outcome of the game, look at your goalie. He let in a soft goal. Yep. That's what I would. I mean, normally I say don't blame the goalies, but
for sure, seriously,
you should have got it.
And you got to give it to Landeskog. He was trying to. There was some diplomacy in his post-game comments, but then this whole thing in his conversation with the press, saying that we thought this and we saw that and we thought there was a little bit of a embellishment. Stop. Talk to your goalie. And he was trying to protect him. He was trying to run cover for his goalie when that's what the problem was.
And don't talk about the embellishment aspect of stuff to a team that has Andrei Svechnikov, who gets just brutalized days
every
on
day,
end,
every
and
game.
Then gets the penalty for the retaliation.
Yeah, every time.
You had no sympathy
every single
because
time.
Did it maybe happen that way? Maybe. Has it happened to Andrei Svechnikov 10 games this year? Yeah, it has.
At least.
Always.
At least.
Very, very quickly, I need to give a shout out here in that game, and I don't know how many others may have noticed it, but Martinook was great against
second line. Martinook worked.
Yeah,
he was impressive, and that one cut to the net in the first period where he
oh my goodness, that was fantastic.
Wow,
I was like,
where did
that?
Those wheels come from? Yes, it was the wheels and the sharp turn and the cut to the net. I mean,
he had an Aho move in him, right?
Yeah, that was a move that deserved a goal. He deserved a goal there.
He definitely did.
At the very least, he deserves recognition for the effort that he puts in.
And he's that guy, right? He's that glue guy, the guy that goes really unsung, and all those types of things, and he gives me the Chad LaRose thing every so often, where you just kind of go, "That's a Chad
Rosie.
LaRose moment." Those
Oh,
are
thank
things
you
from
for
Chad
sharing
LaRose.
that name.
Yeah,
Thank you for
he's
sharing that name, Patty.
for
I
sure,
loved Rosie.
for
He was
sure.
great.
It-
Um, jeez,
So,
that was
so
outstanding.
we're coming up on 12:40,
Oh
and
my
we got a
goodness.
game in a couple hours.
I
So
know.
real quickly, we have Philly today at 3, and then Pitt tomorrow at 1, which I don't really like. Like I wish the Pittsburgh game was at least 24 hours later. I know the
Yeah.
NHL rules, I think 21 hours, but
And
come on.
tonight we changed clocks.
And,
So there's that.
Skipping ahead.
Yeah.
Skipping ahead.
Thank
So,
you,
Yeah.
so there
daylight
actually is an
savings
hour less.
time.
But
It's gonna be crazy.
so, any thoughts on the Flyers game or the Pittsburgh game?
So I'm nervous about today. I'll just throw that out there, just because we just had this moment against the leaguing team, and here we are playing the Flyers, who can't get out of their own way all year.
Do you think it's a
So
trap game?
yeah, I feel it. I feel it. Always feel it. And we're on national TV, so that's never bode well for the Canes. The national TV aspect of any game for the Canes has been poor. I don't even know what the record is. I'm not gonna go look it up, but
It's
it's
like
not
1 and
good.
8. It's
Is it
in the
really?
last few seasons. Yeah, it's not good.
It's even worse. So my hope is everybody is coming correct. They're ready to go. Rod has got some sort of speech for them, but it's one of those games where you're nervous about it, and that's what I don't like about these type of games, because it just turns into that whole it's a mind thing. Tomorrow will be a different game, right? Just because there's something to play for against the Penguins, whereas it's the Flyers and they're just
Yeah.
gonna
If we can
finish
only
this
win one
thing
of
out.
these, I would much rather win the Pittsburgh game and
Right.
drop another
Yeah,
one with
no
the Flyers.
question.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and the Pens are going to be licking their chops there. They put the boots to Vegas last night pretty handily, 5-2, and so
Yeah.
they're kind of laying in wait for a team that's going to be. I mean, the Flyers play a physical game. It's
Mhm.
there's going, and you add all of those things up. It's the second half of a double, a double dip, back to back games on the weekend that you're losing that extra hour where everything you change all of your routines, everything in the
Yeah.
afternoon game routine. Brad has mentioned this number of
Especially.
times before. Yeah. So it's yeah, this is one of those things where it's going to be tough. I prefer to not lose either, of course, but if we
Same.
have to if we have to drop one to the Flyers, who are so far out of the
They are really out of it.
playoff. They are so far gone. I mean, but you're right, Patty. Rod is going to have them fired up and ready to go. That's the one thing that we've
Yeah.
loved about this squad right from the start, is that they're
Mhm.
almost
They're
always
always
ready to
prepared.
go.
They are.
Yeah.
And I think another thing to point out is our success on back-to-backs, the second half of the back-to-backs. And the coach likes to point this out all the time when we are in a back-to-back situation, when he's talking to Trip or whenever he's talking in the media. We seem to do better on those second games. So if there is a fall in this game today, tomorrow I don't see that. I don't.
Agreed.
Just because they're usually licking their wounds and trying to prove a point that they shouldn't have screwed up in the game before. But I'm going to go with a positive note and say I think the Flyers are just tired and they're running out the stretch. Like, we're going to be able to manage that game. We should be able to manage that game and play the right way.
Patty,
All
we're
for
gonna
that.
we're gonna close it right there. You summed that up beautifully. Patty, it has been an absolute honor and
Same, you guys.
pleasure
Huge
to
pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
have you part of the show,
Thank
because
you.
you brought so much to us. I
Oh,
love your story,
thank you.
and just such a I love bright, smart fans like you that know
Thank
every
you.
aspect of
Thank
the
you. That's
game.
very nice.
That
That's
is
very nice.
what makes our show better. That's
I
what
love
makes
it.
it
I love it. You
fun
guys are
to
great.
be a part of a great podcast. So
You guys are great.
I like stealing Penguins fans.
and yeah, big bonus there
Isn't
too.
that a good one?
remember, you give your husband a hug. Tell him
I
it's
will.
from Calgary.
Yep,
And
I
another
will.
Ron Francis fan who loves it.
Oh, he'll love it.
Brad, there's only really one thing left to say, isn't there?
Go Canes.
Go
Go
Canes.
Canes.
Go Canes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.